in the American West accounted for about 25% of the workers in the range cattle industry from the 1860s to the 1880s. It's estimated that anywhere from 5,000 to 8,000 black cowboys were part of the legendary cattle drives of the 1800s. Despite the lack of black images, black men did in fact handle cattle, tame horses, work ranches, encounter outlaws, and star in rodeos. Typically, former slaves and free blacks had skills in cattle handling and headed west at the end of the Civil War. And in Louisiana, there's a historical connection, one that goes way back, even before the first Acadians arrived in the region more than 250 years ago. We're talking as far back as 1680s, close to 340 years. The Creole cowboys, some of these cowboys were free and others were slaves. But no matter their position in life, there's a good chance these men may well have been the first cowboys in the United States. Yes, the first cowboys in a young country could have and most likely were black. Initially, the whites were called cowhands and the blacks were called cowboys as a derogatory term. Like every other thing that we do, the brothers made it cool. Hence, the name cowboy stuck. The black cowboys were typically assigned to handle horses with poor temperaments and wild behaviors, and this was a career known as horsebreaking. The black cowboys also held several other positions on the trail. They were chefs, hunters, they hunt deer and wild turkeys. They also performed on the trail and usually sang or played a musical instrument. Others would often serve as bodyguards or money transporters, which has been attributed to the unlikelihood of thieves searching a black man for large sums of money. The following is a brief look at some of the most iconic cowboys in history and one cowgirl.
Nat Love was a former slave who went on to become one of the most prominent black men of the West. Love grew up in Tennessee, where he learned how to read and discovered that he really had a gift with horses. He traveled to Dodge City when he was a teenager and found cowboy work on cattle drives. He became a crack shot out on the trail and earned his original nickname after driving a herd of cattle to the railhead in Deadwood, Dakota Territory. He entered a rodeo on the 4th of July in 1876. Enticed by the $200 prize money, he won the rope throw, tie, bridle, saddle, and bronco riding contest. It was at this rodeo that he claims friends and fans gave him the nickname Deadwood Dick. Bill Pickett was a prominent performer during his time. Born December 5th, 1870, Williamson County, Texas. He was a rodeo cowboy and he actually invented the bulldogging technique, which became known as steer wrestling, a running steer to the ground. Pickett was descended from American Indians and Native Black Americans in the Southwest. He grew up in West Texas, learning to ride and rope as a boy, and became a ranch hand. He performed simple tricks, rides in towns on weekends, and in 1900, he became a showman. Sponsored a local rodeo promoter in 1907, Pickett signed with 101 Ranch Wild West Show, becoming one of its star performers and assuming the status of a legendary figure for his masterful handling of both wild and domestic animals.
For bulldogging or steer wrestling, he perfected a technique of jumping from his horse, grabbing the steer around the neck or horns, sinking his teeth into the animal's lips, and pulling it to the ground. Pickett performed until 1916, and he later appeared in the silent films The Bulldogger in 1921 and The Crimson Skull in 1922. He was the first black cowboy honored in the National Rodeo Hall of Fame.
Stagecoach Mary Fields. Mary was born into slavery on May 15, 1832 in Tennessee. She was a 200-pound plus, 6 feet tall, strong, short-tempered, tough, heavy, two-fisted, drinking, cigar-smoking woman who packed a pair of 2 6-shooters and an 8 to 10 gauge shotgun. She wore men's clothing under a dress and apron because of the extreme cold weather. After the Civil War, she worked at a convent called the St. Peter Mission as a freight hauler. There, she performed a close relationship and provided protection for the nuns at the convent. She became known as Black Mary. She was always heavily armed. She helped them build a school through 8 severe winters in which she did all the hard work. Although Mary was rough, she was kind-hearted. Mary found a job as a mail carrier for the U.S. government. She was the second woman in the U.S. to become a mail carrier. Mary never missed a day on the job, working no matter what the weather and no matter how rugged the terrain. Through bitterly cold, wintry blizzards to sweltering summer heat, Mary, unlike many, delivered mail to remote miners, cabins, and other remote outposts, which helped in the land claiming process. Thus why she became known as Stagecoach Mary. These efforts on Mary's part helped develop Central Montana, an achievement which she is given little credit for. She retired from mail delivery, and at the age of 70, she opened her own laundry business.
Stagecoach Mary was an entrepreneur, businesswoman, roughest, toughest black cowgirl in the Old West. She is one of the reasons why the U.S. Postal Service developed the reputation to deliver the mail through rain, snow, sleet, hail, earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes, natural disasters of all types. She went to work every single day.
Bose Eichert is best known for participating in the cattle drives on the Goodnight Loving Trail. The Goodnight Loving Trail was a trail used in the cattle drives of the late 1860s for the large-scale movement of Texas Longhorns. He grew up in Mississippi, but after the Civil War, he found work as a ranch hand. In 1999, he was inducted into the Hall of Great Westerners. In 1979, he was inducted into the Texas Trail of Fame. And in 2002, Bose Eichert had an elementary school in Weatherford, Texas, named in his honor. His incredible life inspired the character of Dietz in Larry McMurtry's novel Lonesome Dove.
Joshua Dietz was portrayed by Danny Glover in the TV miniseries Lonesome Dove. In 1989.
John Ware. Ware was born into slavery in South Carolina, but moved down to Texas after the Civil War. There he learned all the skills needed to become a cowboy. He worked on cattle drives from Texas all the way up to Canada, and even helped boost the ranching industry in Alberta. Not only did he have his own ranch, but he also wowed crowds by performing in the Calgary Stampede. It's been rumored that he was never thrown from a horse. He went on to become one of the most respected men on the Canadian frontier. Bass Reeves. Reeves was not only a lawman, but he was the first black deputy U.S. Marshal west of the Mississippi. Throughout Arkansas and the Oklahoma Territory, he apprehended over 3,000 criminals, and he is the inspiration for the Lone Ranger. Please see our video dedicated to Mr. Bass Reeves.
These are just some of the unsung black heroes of the Old West. During that time, the rodeos were like the sports of today. They did not have basketball or football or baseball, but these black cowboys dominated the rodeo shows as that was the sport of the day. The pioneering cowboys of the past have left a legacy that is carried on to this day by groups like the Compton Cowboys, the New York Federation of Black Cowboys, the Black Cowboys of the Mississippi Delta, the Creole Cowboys, from Louisiana, the original cowboys in this country. And let's not forget about the cowgirls. The sisters represent. There are groups like the Urban Black Cowboys and many, many others to this day. The black cowboy still ride to this day. African American cowboys, the forgotten man of the West? Nah, not on this channel. We remember the legacy of the legendary black cowboys and cowgirls. The Black Excellence and Abundance channel, where black history is every day.
Thanks for watching. Please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And as always, thou art rich.
We are built for this network, for the strong, not the weak.